Hello.
Hey, Sergio.
This is Vince. Is this Nick?
Oh, yeah. Hey, Vince. What's going on, man?
How's it going, Nick?
Pretty good. I got Fahim on the line. You want me to move him in?
Yeah, if you could.
Okay. 1 second. Everybody's here.
Hello, Fahim?
How you doing?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Maintaining it. Just keep my head above water. That's all.
I understand. Thank you for agreeing to do this. I know you have limited time, so let's get straight into it. I want people who are going to listen to this to get a sense of what's happening at the Westville Correctional Facility. We can move backwards and talk a little bit about your story towards the end or whenever you have to get off. But for the time being, can you give us a sense of what the conditions are right now at the Westville Correctional Facility?
The conditions at the Westville Correctional Facilities are inhumane living quarters and conditions on the inside of the prison. Sometimes rusted brown water, asbestos everywhere, mold everywhere. You don't have 24-hour access to the bathroom because out of 5 toilets for 100 people to use on the toilet, only 2 toilets work out of 5. As far as the COVID-19 situation goes, it's still no medical care. We haven't seen no doctors. We haven't seen no doctors or none of that. We haven't got any new masks. We haven't had any sanitizers, any bleach or alcohol to clean our living quarters. It's just haven't been basically on our side. Then about, I say, like after the 2-3 month pandemic that we were dealing with, not only out there but in here, they has kept us on lockdown for 3 months because of them saying they wanted to minimize the risk of getting COVID-19. But just like 3 weeks ago, the same people who had COVID-19, who they locked up on lockup and had them basically separated from everybody, they just mixed them in with the whole population. So basically, the same people that they were keeping from people, they just mixed in, not knowing if they still had it or not. And people been dying in here due to not having medical care or having help. They had us on lockdown, telling us to put in health slips. But if you're on lockdown and can't leave, how can you even tell them the health care slip in when the box is by the shower hall? So it was just a lot of stuff going on. It's real hectic in here, real time consuming. There's not much help for a person that's doing parole violation because the programming, they didn't have no programming for 3 months. The only program that was going on was RWI during the 3-month lockdown or whatever the case may be. They don't let the right, I ain't gonna say the right or wrong, but they don't really let too many African Americans in the RWI program. I've been down since 2019 January. I got locked back up, and when I was in Mexico City, I was in the sober living unit for about 3 months, and I was supposed to go into RWI. I get here, and they said I don't have a drug problem. So then after that, I fill out for other programs and don't get into them. So it's just like I don't see the rehabilitation. I don't see the help. I don't see nobody following policy and procedures. It's just not right, man. It's unethical and not right. What I see.
And you've been targeted as a whistleblower?
Yeah, I definitely. Like several people that talked to me. A lady I didn't know came and told me my whole name. Said Faheem Shabazz. We looked you up. We seen your picture. We seen your face. We didn't know what you looked like at first, but now we know what you look like. Please don't put me in a blog. Please don't do this, or you doing this and doing that. You was not supposed to be on lockup, but you was on lockup. So what you gonna do about it? You didn't get off parole. Ha ha, and stuff like that because I didn't have a conduct report or anything, man. When I went like like my whole story. I don't know if you're ready for me to break it down to you or not, but
Yeah,
once
go
I
ahead.
break it down to you, you'll understand. So basically, what it is I got here. I want to say October, November 2018, and I tried to come get in the program because I had parole coming in March. They told me to do some type of programming, so I was doing all type of good stuff basically. And they've been denying me programming here because they say my EPRD is 2025, 2026. So they saying since my EPRD is so long that I will keep on getting bumped continuously with people who out dates are closer. So I understand that to a certain extent, but she basically saying that I can't get no help because there's people going home before me. But if the parole coming in March and I have to complete something, that's not giving me no help. So long story short is while I'm trying to do all this and they not letting me in programs, a situation happened to where, say for instance, your family come see you and get popped with some drugs or get popped with something that they ain't got no business getting popped with, and you are still in population, but they get me and say that your person came to visit me, but she's not on my visitor list, she's not on my phone list, she's not on nothing. And they found me guilty of this and kept me in lockup for 3.5 months, man. So when they did this, I'm like astounded, like, hold on, this person's not on my visitor list. The person whose visitor list it is in population, they not even on lockup. I've been on lockup since since November, and y'all got me over here as if this is my write-up, and it's not my write-up. So I'm trying to really figure out, like, what's going on. So about me being over there, I'm like, this is not right. So I'm filing appeals. I'm doing hunger strikes. I'm telling my family, I'm telling my loved ones, the nonprofit organization, everybody, like, this is not right. They not giving me hygiene. They not giving me my food. They not giving me my proper religious preference. They're not giving me none of the things that I'm supposed to get when I don't have a write-up. And then when they hit me with the write-up and said I had a conspiracy to traffic in the battery for something that I didn't do, I was astounded. They gave me 6 months on lockup, and I wasn't supposed to leave lockup to June. But once we found the appeal and the nonprofit kept fighting, they came and got paperwork and let me off February 6th and said that these write-ups, the conspiracy traffic, will be expunged. But once I go in front of the parole board March 29th, remember I told you, I got out February 6th. I see the parole board March 29th. When I go to see parole board, I just know I'm going home because now I got these write-ups expunged that I was worried about. And I don't have no conduct. So I've been locked up a year, no conduct. I got paperwork that I sent to the parole board showing them that I tried to get in programs and what they said about my EPRD. I had 2 people come speak on my behalf, said that they had programs for me on the street, substance abuse in or outpatient, and that they had programs to help me with housing and making sure that I can get to the parole office and stuff like that. And I had people speak on my behalf. So they asked me at the parole board, they said, what have you done in the last year, Smith? And I said, well, I've sent y'all like 17 pieces of paper of all the documentation that I have trying to get in programs and things that I did. They said, what are you going to do upon your release? So I told them. And the last question was, why was you on lockup for 3.5 months? Now, why are you asking me about something that really didn't happen? Because as far as the records is concerned, it's expunged from the records. So I never was on lockup 3.5 months. So why would you be asking about that? So basically, I feel like the parole board hindered me and held me accountable for me being on lockup 3.5 months when it wasn't even my fault. And they kept me in prison and told me they'd see me next year, March 2021. So now I've been locked up on a technical violation for 2 years, bro. They got me in here for 2 years. I don't have no new case. I don't have anything. And I'm up in here trying to get help and get in programs, and nobody's trying to help me, and nobody caring about anything.
How many of the other guys that you're with locked up are in similar situations?
I would say about 50 to 60%. It's so many people in parole. We've been sending out letters to the parole board, but I'd say about 30 to 40% people have the same situation. You have people that's been in here parole violations, just for technical violation, not for no new case or nothing. 3, 4, 5 years, bro.
Jesus.
not being able to get no programs, not being able to better themselves. If you're telling me that you got me in technical violation and I tell you that I can do some substance abuse on the street, or a nonprofit would tell you that they can get more help for me than in here because I'm not even getting in the program in here. I'm just sitting idle time and I can catch the COVID-19 and die when the judge did not sentence me to die because the COVID-19 is in here and I've already did 20 years of my life. I've been locked up since 14 years old. Like, what more do you people want? I've been locked up 14 years, you know what I mean? 14 years old. That's 20 years I've done. So it's to the point now, like, I'm still doing extra time with my family out there. My mother getting older. Like, stuff is going on. I had a whole life ahead of me out there. I had a license. I had a permit out here for 6 months. I had insurance. I had bills I was paying. I was living my life. I wasn't having no pistols. I didn't have no violence. I didn't have no drugs. I didn't have any of those things. What's
the attitude, Faheem? What's the sense you get from the guards who are there? How have they been behaving since this has happened?
I mean, it's been guards that told me they had COVID-19 and was gone for a week and came back the next week and around everybody. They've been cocky. They've been talking stuff. The guards, they do a lot of stuff to you because they know this is level 2 and you're trying to go home. So they antagonize you and try to put you out.
You have 1 minute remaining.
So we're going to continue this. I'm going to call back. And so we're going to keep going. But they antagonize you to try to get you more caught up like they've been doing me for a while. Like, once I started being a whistleblower and stuff, and like 5, 6 different officials told me who I was and looked at my interviews and stuff. It was targeted. I was shook down. Said I had a cell phone. They moved me. They wrote me up on the threatening write-up. I'm fighting the threatening write-up right now. I'm trying to beat it. I didn't threaten anybody, though. It's just a whole lot. So it's like, I have to be aware when you do stuff like that, because now that I have a lawsuit and now that I'm going through this stuff, I'm being targeted.
Right. Well, do you want us to wait then, Faheem? You're going to call it back in?
Yeah, wait. I'm going to call right back. Yeah, I'm going to call right back in. I'm going to call right back.
All right.
All right.
Thank you for using GTL.
And Nick, you're still there?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll give it a second then.
Okay.
What do they have, a 10-minute limit, Nick?
15.
15.
Usually. Sometimes you can go for a half hour. I'm not sure what the exact deal is with that. But usually 15. And they charge $5 for a 15-minute phone call.
Jesus.
Yeah. It's fucking crazy. Indiana has one of the highest, here
Did you say Indiana has one of the highest rates for that, Nick?
For using GTL.
Hello.
Faheem, you're there?
Yeah, I'm here.
So you've got guards in the prison who are openly antagonizing people. The prisoners, the people who are in the prison right now, are not being properly isolated. Nobody knows who's infected. You have guards who've been infected who are coming back into the prison and antagonizing people. And you also have guards who are trying to get people to drum up charges to get people charged again so they can stay in. This is what's happening.
Yeah.
And who is there to reach out to? I mean, what kind of proper mechanisms are there to reach out to anyone? Because it seems like you're filing these appeals, that you're trying to go through the official mechanisms, but that they're no help. In fact, they seem to be more of a harm than anything.
Yeah, definitely be more harm. And sometimes when you turn in grievances, now they don't turn them in because they have what you call informal grievances now, to where you have to write the person that you have a grievance with. And if they never turn it in, then guess what? You never did it. And then you violating or you're going against the policy, and then they can automatically deny you. So it's just a lot of different little tricks and trickery that they doing here, man. It's all to deny you, man. Like, I don't understand why it's not many more programs for parole violators, or why there's not something set in place to where if this pandemic would have hit, everything would have been right, because this person has been all over the place, man, and it's not been right.
Tell me a little bit about the conditions at Westville prior. You mentioned some of them before, but talk about the conditions at Westville prior to the COVID-19 pandemic. This wasn't a great place before the pandemic.
No, it definitely wasn't a great place. They do fines here. This is what I'm hearing. They do fines every year to keep this place open. The code is not up to code here. Each bathroom, I've been on EC side and I've been GSC side. I've killed over 15 mouses in my room. Mouses have been in my bed. The toilet have feces water dripping on your head while you're taking the feces from the upstairs. You can see the mold inside of the showers. You can see the mold inside of the rooms. The windows are busted, so when it's real cold, it's icicles inside of the room, and there's nothing you can do about it. Everything, the conditions is just very inhumane and not right, man. You have these conditions to where it's 4 people in a room, so one person getting caught with something that makes everybody guilty. So it's a lot of corporate punishment as well going on here, and not a lot of help. The conditions are really just bad. You're trying to get in these programs, and they don't have enough programs for everybody. So it's like you just have people here doing idle time. And what idle time do is the devil's playground. So you don't really have too much help. Prior to the COVID-19,
Tell about the food.
I can't hear you.
The food.
The food, Faheem.
The food. Prior to the COVID-19, the food was horrible. Like, man, you might get one boiled egg, some lumpy oatmeal, a couple pieces of bread, butter, jelly, and that's breakfast. Through the COVID-19, we've been getting bologna, turkey, ham, peanut butter, jelly, and cookies for the last 3.5 months. Mouses had mouse turds in some of the bags. You can see where the mouse tear through the bread on there because they pre-make the sacks and they give them to you every day. So it's just horrible. The food conditions are very horrible as well. Like, it's just crazy.
Where did you do you said you've been in prison since you were 14 years old, Faheem. Where have you done majority of your time?
Pendleton, Michigan City, Wabash, CIC, and now here.
Is Westville the worst of the bunch?
Of my time. Yes. I've never been at level 2 to this time. This is my first time ever been at level 2, and Westfield is the worst.
Talk to me a little bit about what you've been through this system since you were 14 years old. What do you think people who are going to listen to this need to hear about the criminal injustice system? What do they need to hear about the prisons? What do you think people need to do who are on the outside who might not be paying attention to these issues?
Okay. This is where I really think we need to have it, man. People need to pay attention to what's really going on and open their eyes and start helping do more programming, not just in, but on the outside. If you have these nice programs that y'all are looking up to, the RWI program, Recovering While Incarcerated, I'm sure that there's many more programs on the street. For the people that's parole violators, don't just set them in prisons where people have 100 years and they could just die, because that's what they did to me. Like, as soon as they had me for parole violence, they put me right back in a level 4 behind the wall Michigan City prison where people have 200 and 300 years. Like, for me to go back into that environment after just coming from the streets was like a whole new world. So basically, get more programming. Don't make that locking the person up the first result for parole violators, because 60% is probably parole violators in the prisons because they're not trying to give a person a chance saying, oh, go to this program out there or do this program or enroll into this anger management program or do this substance abuse outpatient program or go up here and do this volunteer work or do this or do that. Like, they're not having different alternatives. So for people like parole violators, myself, if you can't guarantee them a program in the prison, if they can guarantee some on the streets, recommend that they do that, as well as what else is wrong. It's like it's too much control. It's a control factor inside of these prisons and more of a money projected experience that's going on. It's all about money in here. Like, I was just reading on the tablet today, they just raised 8 different food products. So from $2.24 and went to $2.86. So it's like 40-50% raise. It's about money, man, and it really is, because I believe if they wouldn't have had me in the hole for somebody else's stuff and I beat the write-up, I do believe that I would have been in a worse situation than I am right now if I didn't have people that love me in my nonprofit fighting for me on the outside. Because the other dude, he's still on lockup, and we have the same exact case.
Who's the other gentleman?
What's really going on here is a bunch of injustice. It's a bunch of injustice. It's a bunch of abuse. It's a bunch of misdirection. It's a bunch of schemes. It's a bunch of non-compliancy. It's a bunch of negligency, because I haven't had my seizure medication in 2 months. That's another thing. The medical care is just pitiful here. They're not trying to help. So the main thing is to try to get people help on the streets and minimize locking people up, because locking up is not rehabilitating a person when you lock them up. It's not. It's really not. Like, this hasn't helped me not one bit. I've been locked up since January 2019, and I haven't gotten no programs. I've worked as a lay advocate in Michigan City, and I was in sober living unit for like 5 months, and I was awaiting the program RWI, but I never got to get into it. So now I'm just here waiting on parole to come back in March, when really I should have got let go because I didn't have any conduct report. So if I haven't been bad and did nothing in a year, and you said don't get no trouble, when you come back you'll let me go, what happened? Why wasn't I released?
Now, some of the families of people who are locked up right now have been holding protests outside of the prison, including Nick, who's on the line with IDOC Watch, Indiana Department of Corrections Watch. Can you talk about how people saw those protests? Were people happy to see the folks out there? Are people happy to see that there's people out? There's not enough, of course, but there are people out here trying to fight. Nick obviously leading the way with some of this. I mean, what's the sense you get from the guys who are inside when they see those kind of actions?
Oh, and here people are astounded. They finally happy that somebody is making a way to show them what's going on in here, because for so long they put a blanket over what's going on, and the society and the people in the world cannot see what's going on. So they are so astounded that they got people out there fighting on their behalf, and some of them work in solidarity with them, refusing their sack of lunches and stuff like that to work in solidarity when they can, if they can. So it's been a great feedback in here, as well as people trying to do better and help themselves as well. But at the end of the day, we have to help ourselves, because in here, they're not really trying to do nothing for us. Like, really, they're really not.
What do you think?
I just want to get some exposure. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, what do you think folks can do on the inside? You said that you participated in a hunger strike. What kind of things would you like to see? Because you're also in danger for organizing in that context, right?
Yeah, definitely. But the thing they can do without getting in trouble and stuff will be like start some positive groups where like ideal mind can come together and you can dialogue on the same subject. Maybe find different situations that you can go into and help other people with their lives, what's going on in their lives, or talk about certain things that matter in your life and help other people, basically. So I do like what they call study groups. And I might get 5 or 6 people, and we might talk about Assad Shakur, or we might talk about rehabilitation, or we might talk about what can you do to better yourself today, or what have you done to better yourself as a father, or as a brother, or as a man, or as a boyfriend, or as a husband, etc. And we try to do positive and productive things to move progressively through the hard times that we go through. So that's different little things that I do in here.
Do you see a sense of solidarity amongst people across racial and ethnic lines?
Not really, because everybody else, they have their own motives and their own genres and their own agendas. So when you have your own agenda, it kind of never mixes as far as the racial is concerned, because you got to think, once again, when I said in the beginning, I said everybody that's basically Caucasian or, you know what I mean, European, they're getting in the program. So they're getting to get out on parole because they're finishing RWI, or they're finishing culinary arts, or they're finishing the programs that they're getting into either because of their EPRD or because of their ethnicity.
Right. So the white the white inmates are getting access to the programs, and inmates of color are not getting access.
When I tell you, bro, that it's probably 300, 400 people on RWI, and there's maybe 20 black people, that's like being generous.
Wow. What are the numbers like? What is the situation like? You've got your Latinx brothers and sisters who are in there. What is the situation like among the Latinx community?
Same as the African Americans. They get treated like they got some good jobs. Like you might see some Mexicans or some Latinos with some jobs, but for the most part, you would say it might be 70% European in the RWI, 15% Mexican, 10% black. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Right. What else would you like people to know, Faheem? I'm going to talk when we get off the phone. I'm going to talk with Nick about how, what IDOC Watch is up to, how folks can plug in, and how people on the outside can get involved. What would be the things you would like to leave with people who are listening or watching this? What do you want people to know, and what is your message to folks?
Basically, I want everybody to continue to fight. I don't want nobody to give up, man, because even with the COVID-19, it's not over, man. It's not over. That's something that hit our nation wide open, man, and we didn't know what to do with it because didn't nobody prepare themselves. I believe that we need to prepare ourselves in prison, get ready, like prepare ourselves, or see can we start some programs to prepare each other for stuff like that, because you got so much close proximity that it'll get passed on through the prison like wildflowers. Right. Give us more medical care. Help us out sanitizing our stuff more. Give us more masks.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Be there anytime that we really need to, because there was people that was really sick that really didn't get the help that they needed at all, man. And furthermore, as far as the living conditions in here, I would like to see more clean stuff, like pass the code, like clean these showers, give us bleach, give us things that we can sanitize things with. Like, how much injustice have to be done before something is brought to the light, or I'm dead? Because it's just constantly stuff going on in here that's not being answered. Like, as far as me, like, I'm going to call right back because it's about to cut off.
Okay, go ahead.
As far as my situation with the parole, I'm calling right back, though. But as far as my situation with being here for parole violation, I'm here on 2 technical violations, simple and plain. For missing a parole date with the what's name and a dirty drop. So if you have those 2...
Thank you for using GTL.
You want him to call back then?
Oh, yeah. As long as he wants to talk, I'll let him. I mean, he's welcome to talk as long as he wants.
Okay.
Yeah.
Using GTL.
Hello.
Hello, Fahim. Go ahead. You can continue, man.
So basically what I was saying was, like me being on parole violation for them 2 technical violations, you would think that you would get me some help. Like I said, I was in Michigan City, I was lay advocate, I was in sober living unit for 3-4 months waiting to get an RWI. When I came here to Westfield in October 2019, they denied me every program, and due to my EPRD, I have paperwork and documentation of all of this if you need it or anybody need it. And I sent it to the parole board, which is Gwendolyn Hort and Thor Miller and all them people showing them that I'm indeed trying to get in programs, but they're constantly denying me and nobody's doing nothing. So it seems like when I'm not getting in trouble and I'm job eligible, I'm program eligible, they come and they try to write me up on bogus write-ups to try to detour me from being able to get in the program because I'm fighting so hard to get in them. So then when I beat these write-ups, like I just told you, I was in that situation where I was on lockup for 3.5 months, and I ended up beating the case and got it expunged. Basically, it was 11-14. It was a 212 and a write-up, and I was okay. Boom. That's what it say. The real Bailey and me had the same exact write-up on 1230 and 1231. Write-up is the same situation, which is being investigated, and we was the only 2 or 4 people charged as a write-up. They expunged mine, but they still denied me my religious preference, which was the Quran, and I have a 1983 lawsuit for not receiving religious preference or amendment slips. From November 5th to February 5th, I was on lockup, and so much of my property have been missing, and I found grievances and all that. Now, to that situation, and me going to parole board and me being denied parole due to me being on lockup when they shouldn't even ask about that, that's a problem within itself, don't you think?
Sure. No, it's insane.
Because if you know I was on lockup from November to February and I wasn't supposed to get off to June, and the police messed up and had me on lockup and you let me off, why would you ask me about that if that supposedly never happened?
Right. That's right. What is the treatment? What is the treatment for folks who are locked up who identify as Muslims? Is this across the board, or is this something that you're specifically dealing with?
I've been. Let me see. I've been dismantled on so many different levels because of my religious preference. Like when I was on lockup just now, my Musala came up missing, my Kufi came up missing, my Quran came up missing, my thicker beads came up missing, and nobody knew where it was. Over $100 worth of materials, and it's just gone.
And this was the guards that likely took it, yeah?
Yeah, more than likely, because they wanted to supposed to inventory your sheet, but they never go by policy and procedure, and your stuff just come up missing and don't nobody do anything about it.
Is this the experience of other folks who identify as Muslim within Westville?
Yes, they're definitely targeted. They're definitely targeted in the prison, and they're not on the number 1 nights list. They're very much hated.
What is the sense that you have? I'm sure you've seen, I don't know how much access you have to information outside, but I'm sure you're aware of the uprisings that have happened since the murder of George Floyd.
Yes.
What are your thoughts on those uprisings?
Yes, my thoughts on that is it's about time, man. It's about time for us to stand up and do something, because us not doing nothing is what got us where we at right now. So that's why I encourage everybody to constantly fight for what's righteous. If it's not right, don't fight for it, man. Like, it's pitiful that happened. I hate to see all the tragedies befall us, but if it happened for a better cause, I am with that, because it seems like people are finally standing up, doing the right thing. I even have a couple people in here fighting the right cause. So I'm going to continue to do what I do. Like, I want people to get in touch with Governor Eric Holcomb and Robert Carter Jr., and I want everybody to write the parole board and write them and let them know that y'all recommended people to do programs, but they're not getting us in these programs. And if it's people on the streets that's offering us programs, let us attend those programs if you've been locked up a year already with no trouble. Like, let's get some light on the parole violator situation. Let's release some people due to the COVID-19 to not spread and minimize this, because you got to think, everybody that's on parole violation already did their time.
That's right.
So if I have 40 do 20, I've did 20 years already, and I've been locked up 2 more extra years. So everybody that did parole violations, we already did our time. It's not like we're not doing our time. We already in the books. It's already marked. It's already scratched off.
No, this is
so to have us here now is just.
That's a trap to keep people coming back and back. I mean, those programs and the way they're set up is just, that's to get everybody right back in that system.
Yeah, but my whole thing is, even the programs here, like, say for instance, I would have did the RWI and been done with it by the time they came. They probably let me go. But since they're not letting me in, then let's figure out what can we do as society, because we're not going to just be able to do it in here. We're going to need the newspaper help. Like, I want to really develop a relationship with you for real, because we need to put this stuff in the newspaper to where the world is starting to get a hold of this, because you got family and people who dying in here and people who really need help, and you're telling them that they can't get no help because they didn't pass drug tests in here. But what if they don't do the drugs that's in the prison? What if they do different drugs that's on the streets? So you're not going to give that person some help because he don't do the drugs that's in the prison? Like, let's get some understanding in here.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I mean, I think one of the questions I had for you, Faheem, was when is the earliest that you could potentially get out?
My EPRD is 2025, 2026. Now, the parole board come every year to see me. I thought that me not having no conduct reports and doing good that I was going to be out last year, but I'm still here. When you're on parole violation, you're supposed to almost for surely go home if you don't hit no conduct reports and you finish the program. You're supposed to go home the next year. You don't supposed to continuously stay here.
Is your family located in the region, Fahim?
Yeah, my mama in Gary, my sister in Nap, my brother in Gary, my daddy in Gary, my baby mother and my kids is in Indianapolis and Gary. So it's just different things, different places.
How often are you able to speak with them?
I speak to my mother every day. I don't speak to everybody else every day, but I do speak to them.
And Nick told me that it's $5 for 15 minutes to talk on the damn phone.
Yeah. Oh man, the money that we spending here is ridiculous. I spent $240 on my birthday for Union Supply, which is a special outside little order vendor, and I still haven't got it. That was April 7th.
Jesus. What is there a way that people can, how do you get funds? There's people out there, I'm sure, who don't know how this works. How exactly do you get funds?
Basically, to get funds in prison, you go to Connect Network and you set up an account with Connect Network, and you can put money on the trust fund, debit links for the tablet, or PIN debit for the money on the phone. And once you set up an account, you can put money on any 3 of those.
And anyone can
I would definitely like people to get on my tablet. Like, if you could put my information in the newspaper, like my DOC number and where I'm at, Jerry Smith, 129911 is my DOC number, and they can go on Connect Network and they can go in there and sign up and put.
You have 1 minute remaining.
And I can write to them and stuff like that and everything.
Well, we'll do that. We're going to put it on the website. We'll put it on our page, and we will raise money for you as soon as we're out of this or off this interview.
I appreciate it, bro.
Let's do this again, Faheem.
Yeah, I definitely want to, man, because this is great, and I want to get all this out there, and I want everybody to go to the parole board and pressure the parole board to release these parole violators because they shouldn't be here, and talk to the governor about our clemency because I put in clemency too, never heard anything back from it. So we need to push the governor, the commissioner, and the parole board, and talk to my brother Nick about all that. He knows what we need to do, and let me know if this gonna be out because I want a copy of this newspaper with me in it.
All right, my man. I will definitely do that. Thank you for your time, Faheem. Stay safe, brother. Sending you love and solidarity.
You do too, bro. You Rusasa.
Thank you for using GTL.
Nick, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. So take us through, give us a sense of who you are, because we didn't properly introduce you. Your name's Nick. You're with Indiana Department of Correction Watch. Talk to us about what IDOC Watch is, how you met Faheem, and the sort of work that IDOC Watch is up to.
Yeah, so IDOC Watch is an organization of people who are in prison and people on the outside who are opposed to prison, organizing to stop the abuses that go on all the time inside the prison, and fight toward decarceration. And we're trying to build a movement of people, who have that same, same mindset, basically an abolitionist mindset, and or are directly affected by prison system. And I'm currently the general coordinator for the organization around the state. And I was one of the people who put together about 5 years ago.
Hey, Nick, I'm having a real rough time hearing you. I don't know if you're on speaker or if you're using a headset.
Sorry, I think I'm just talking too quietly. Is that better?
A little bit. I don't know if it's with the connection or the type of phone. Are you on a computer or on a phone?
No, I'm just on phone.
Okay.
Like normal phone.
No, you sound a little better now. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. Do you need me to repeat that, or you want to go ahead?
Yeah, actually, if you could, man, it would be better for us. Because I want people to hear this stuff, and I want it to be clear for people so they could plug in and immediately get involved.
Okay. So yeah, IDOC Watch is an abolitionist organization of people who are currently incarcerated and people who have loved ones incarcerated, and then just anyone else who is, dedicated to prison abolition in the state of Indiana and who wants to work on that. We have chapters in Gary, Indianapolis, Bloomington, and South Bend now. And the organization's been around for about 5 years. I'm currently the statewide general coordinator, and Fahim, we met through another long-term incarcerated prison rebel and political prisoner named Kalfani Khaldoon. They were friends on the inside, and then when Fahim got out, we put a bunch of work into helping him get on his feet. But that's sort of it's an enormous task, and we weren't actually prepared for it at the time. So, and then he got caught back up. So that's how we know him.
What kind of actions do you guys have coming up? You recently did an action, I think it was about a week or a week and a half ago, where you actually went to the warden's house. Can you talk to us a little bit about that action? Can you also talk about some of the actions you have planned coming up that people can plug into?
Yeah. Some people involved with IDOC Watch and the Free Them All Coalition, which is a bunch of organizations around the state that got together to work on the issue of getting people released from prison due to COVID-19. Some people went to the Westville Warden Gallipo's house, like you said, a little while back, to try to put pressure on him and to shame him in front of his neighbors for killing a bunch of people, participating in the murder of a bunch of people recently during the COVID-19 crisis. And he has also been personally responsible for torturing a number of people who were on a unit at Westville where a rebellion took place on April 22nd due to the fact that almost everybody in the prison was getting COVID-19 and they weren't getting any kind of medical care. Fahim didn't go too deep into that, but they literally were not getting any kind of medical care. And it was was really bad. There's all sorts of reports from people who have been in there, who are still in there and who got COVID-19 about how bad it was. And the only medical care they were giving people was just throwing people who were really intensely sick in solitary confinement in the control unit, and checking their temperature every once in a while. That's the extent of any kind of medical care anyone got during the height of the COVID-19 crisis.
Which is a form of torture.
Totally a form of torture.
Yep.
Yeah. And that was only, not that being quarantined in solitary confinement is a good thing at all, but those were the only people who received any medical attention. Were people who were so sick. I don't know what exactly the administration's thinking was, but maybe they just wanted to get them out of the way in case they actually died so that people wouldn't riot more.
Right.
I would guess that's what it was. Right. So only people who were really intensely sick were moved, received any kind of attention. You couldn't call it medical attention, really. And then, and on April 22nd, there was a short and relatively small uprising, but a couple hundred people overpowered the guards on one unit and took their keys and injured a guard, badly enough that they had to go to the hospital. And then, the rebellion was put down. But everyone who was on that unit was then put in the control unit, which is a solitary confinement unit in Westville, and tortured until they talked. And they were tortured. They were still being tortured a month later. And when we had the demonstration in Michigan City, one of the family members of one of those people came to that demonstration. And that was maybe 2 weeks ago now. And since then, we've been focusing on trying to get the torture to stop and the people who are being tortured. There's only like 13 or so people left out of the group of 80 some people who were on that unit where the rebellion took place. And there's like 13 or 14 people who are refusing to give information, or maybe they just don't have any information, and they're still being. At this point, it seems like the torture has stopped because we've been able to expose it and gotten some attention on it, but they're still being held in this part of Westfield called the dungeon, or that people call the dungeon. It's not the control unit. From what the parents have been saying, it's the basement of a building that's condemned or wasn't in use, hasn't been in use for a long time, and doesn't have basic the basic kind of shit that you would expect even in a prison cell.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, and in terms of things that we have going on right now, that issue with the torture at Westfield is a big thing we've been focusing on. We may be having a protest there on Saturday. We've been having, with everything that's been going on, it hasn't. Well, I'm not sure why, but it hasn't gotten nearly as much attention as the past two protests that happened at Westfield.
Sure. Sure.
So we may be postponing it, or coming up with a different approach. We'll know that tomorrow evening for sure.
Okay.
We also have a call-in campaign right now about our comrade on Gaza, Iman Bahar, known to the state as Jimmy Jones, who's been down for 27 years. And he's one of the founders of IDOC Watch, who is literally supposed to be released tomorrow from prison after 27 years. And in the past week, he's been assaulted by some random other prisoner who he has never had any kind of relationship with. They didn't know at all. Also been physically pushed by a staff and had 2 bogus conduct reports written up about him. And now he's being held in administrative segregation in the with the solitary confinement in Miami, pending investigation, and they've pushed his outdate back another 2 months at this point.
Jesus.
So we have a call-in campaign about him as well, and we're working on putting together some sort of larger scale demonstration in Indianapolis to try to connect this stuff with the movement that's going on in the streets.
I was just going to ask you about that. Yeah, no, I wanted to get your thoughts. I mean, it's interesting to me that so quickly the opinion polls change with people. I mean, you know, a month ago or 2 weeks ago, ideas like abolishing the police or even significantly defunding, whatever route you want to take, seemed sort of unthinkable to people. Do you find some hope in seeing those kind of things? Working on an issue like this is one of those issues. It reminds me of the wars. It reminds me of the torture that we inflict on primarily Muslims and Arabs abroad, people who have been sent to Guantanamo and other places. It's these issues that reveal the sort of darkest part of our society and culture and political system, and they're the issues that are, I think, probably most often, you know, swept under the rug. And you see this movement happening right now around abolishing the police, or at least the other end of that is sort of significantly defunding it. What do you think that means for the movement to abolish prisons as we know them?
I'm very encouraged and, feel significantly more hopeful after what happened in the past couple of weeks as far as the uprising around the country, about, the possibilities for movement to grow and develop towards actual abolition. I feel a lot more hopeful now than I have in a long time. But on the other end, you can see there's a lot of, the co-optation is coming in very quickly.
Sure.
So words like abolish are suddenly losing any kind of real meaning in certain spaces, I guess. But yeah, no, I think it's great, and if nothing else, it's a whole new, the sort of youth have, seen there's been a revolt for this generation to, there's going to be a crop of revolutionaries coming out of what just happened for sure. The same way there was on a probably much smaller scale with like Occupy and Ferguson.
Sure.
So I think that's great. We'll just see where it goes. I'm hoping that people will keep pushing and be able to deepen the analysis, and also keep, get it, organized, I guess.
Yeah.
Get it more organized and coordinated to a point that, so that, powerful moments like that can happen without being necessarily spontaneous or reactionary. Not reactionary in a bad way, but just in the sense of like reacting to a specific instance.
Oh, no. I'm with you 100%, man. It's the same conversations that we've been engaged in. How can people, first of all, if there's anything else you want to mention, go ahead, because I was just going to ask you to, note how people can get engaged with your efforts, what people can do, what your advice is for people. I know you said that, the events are on hold for Saturday, at least until you figure out tomorrow. I wouldn't say that, just on a side note, I don't think it's specific to your event. I think most of the people I know who've been setting up things, it's been really difficult with everything else going on. How can people plug into your efforts? Is there a way to become a member of IDOC Watch?
Yeah, well, let me say, first of all, I wanted to mention also that another thing that we're going to be focusing on coming up is what's going on in Indiana Women's Prison, which is sort of on the outskirts of Indianapolis. But they at Indiana Women's Prison, they've used the COVID-19 crisis and the lockdown they imposed there during COVID-19, during the height of the COVID-19 situation. They basically extended that and are now saying it's going to be a permanent lockdown. And people are, sort of crying out for help about that because they're locked in rooms, similar to what Fahim was saying about Westville, where they're locked in rooms without access to toilets or bathrooms when they're on lockdown. So they can't get to the toilet or bathroom without a guard unlocking their door for them. And the guards just torture people by refusing to let them get to water or toilets. And it's also a crazy fire hazard, and there's no significant, there's no ventilation or air conditioning, little ventilation, no air conditioning in most of the prisons around the state. And so we've been hearing just, horrifying stories from IWP as well about the way the women and the people there are being treated. So that's something we're going to have a phone tap, probably the fire marshal, up sometime soon, trying to draw attention to that as soon as we have the time. And then so to be a member of IDOC Watch, there's a training process, but you can just message us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram or email us at idocwatch@gmail.com. And we'll get back with you. We're responsive on all those platforms. And there's a training process that just involves, reading some things and listening to podcasts to orient yourself to the prison movement, and then also corresponding with some of our incarcerated leaders for a little while before you get, before we ask you to correspond with anyone else. And that's just to make sure that you're going to stick with it before we put you in touch with anybody else, because we've had a lot of experiences where people have sort of gotten involved and then we've given them responsibilities and then they've fallen off really quickly. So the training process is a relatively new thing that we're trying. And like I said, we have chapters in Gary, South Bend, Indianapolis, and Bloomington right now, and maybe Evansville soon.
Excellent.
So, and if you're not in one of those places, you can also call into meetings wherever it makes sense. And hopefully we'll be getting back to in-person meetings soon, depending on how everyone's feeling about social distancing and
right.
all that.
How did you, I know we're moving a little backwards and we are going to be running out of time, but I wanted to get a sense. There's probably people listening to this thinking, well, I'm thinking two things, but most importantly, I'm wondering what keeps you motivated, disciplined enough to continue with this struggle particularly. And it's sort of the second question to that is, what was it that got you particularly interested in this issue?
In terms of what keeps me motivated, it's really the relationships I've formed with people like Fahim and Angaza and several other Shaka Shakur and Aaron Isby Israel, Kalfani Malik Khaldoon. If you have listeners, who are interested, I would really recommend looking them up. You can find their writings on our blog and stuff. But these are people who have been incarcerated in Indiana for some of them since the 80s, all of them since the early 90s, with the exception of Fahim, who's younger. And have been fighting back this whole time in relative obscurity. And they're just amazing people, really incredibly smart and, just good people who have been fucking tortured by the system for 3 decades. And so, yeah, I mean, it's really the relationships I have with them that have kept me going. That have inspired me to, be disciplined about this work, I guess, what I meant to say. And then I got into it through the Pages to Prisoners program in Bloomington. I met on Gaza through that. And then at the time there was and we just formed a relationship randomly through this Book to Prisoners program. And I later found out his niece is one of my cousin's best friends. So that was a personal connection. But then there was also a collective in Bloomington that was doing a lot of work around prisons at the time. And I got in touch with these other guys through that collective. They wrote a book, sort of through the bars, wrote this book. It's a series of interviews about prison resistance in Indiana. It's also worth checking out. It's called Down, Reflections on Prison Resistance in Indiana.
Down, Reflections on Prison Resistance in Indiana?
Yeah, you can just Google that, Google that and then PDF, and you'll find it no problem.
Excellent. Where are you located, Nick? I know I should know this, but I forget.
I'm in.
You don't have to say if you don't want, by the way.
Point. I'm just between places at this point. The COVID-19 sort of.
Okay.
Okay. Causing some problems financially.
Let us know. I know you sent me a message, and I apologize. We've been getting hit up by I personally in my page have been getting hit up by hundreds of people, and I need to be able to sort of filter those out. But Serge and I were talking before we started this. As far as RMC is a different entity than Park, so obviously you'll have to go through them for different things. But as far as Park is concerned, anything that you want from us, you just let us know. I mean, the community space is closed for the time being for obvious reasons. We've been doing these media podcasts and videos just to, put content out there, keep people engaged, keep people active, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, anything you need from us, if you want to make us a co-host, if you want us to add something to a calendar, if you want us to promote anything, you're not gonna bother us. So, reach out and keep bothering us if we don't, respond right away or whatever the case is. I mean, I want to help you as much as we can help you here. So.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
No, it's our pleasure. I mean, the work that you're doing is, it's important work, and it's thankless work, and it's work that doesn't get nearly enough attention because it's not sexy or easy to engage with. So I appreciate what you do.
Yeah. Right on. Yeah, I appreciate you guys too. Right on.
Well, we'll be in touch, Nick, and yeah, let's be in touch. We'll keep track of what you guys are doing. Let us know if there's any events, and we'll help out any way we can, and we'll talk to you in the coming days or weeks.
Great. Yep. Good talking to you. I'm sorry, I don't know why Fahim got the impression that it was a newspaper.
No worries.
No, journalist who wanted to talk to them.
No, in fact, the fact that he mentioned that actually makes me want to reach out to Kelly Smith, who's a reporter on the News Dispatch, to see if she'd be willing to do something about this. She's been sort of our, one of the best people on the inside of the paper for us who've covered, she's been covering these events and protests in a really decent way. So I'm actually going to reach out to her because Faheem mentioned that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, he was thrilled. He probably read her article about the one in Michigan City. He was thrilled about the coverage of it in the News Dispatch.
Good deal.
Yeah.
All right, my man. Thank you. Keep up the awesome work. Keep up the difficult work, and we'll be in touch.
All right. You guys too. Take care.
All right, Nick. Hey, thank you for watching and listening. If you think this program is worth a pack of cigarettes or a cheeseburger, you could become a Patreon for as little as $3 a month. The link is available at our website, parcmedia.org. That's PARCmedia.org. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel below. Also, you could find us on Instagram at Park Media, Facebook at Politics, Art, Roots, Culture, and you could find me on Twitter at Vince Emanuele.